When a breach occurs at the highest levels, every entry point becomes critical infrastructure.
Breach protocol.
Another day, another attempt on Trump's life. This time, a shotgun-wielding maniac with a gas can breached the secure perimeter at Mar-a-Lago in the dead of night. The Secret Service did what they had to do. They put him down permanently, but here's what the mainstream media does not want you to know about this latest assassination attempt. Now, this is not just a random break-in, my friends. This is the fourth serious attempt on President Trump's life, and we're not even through the first year and a half in office. I mean, think about what this means for you and your family. If they're willing to go this far against the President of the United States, what do you think they'll do to ordinary Americans who support him? The left's rhetoric has created an environment where violence against conservatives is not just accepted, it's encouraged. Treasury Secretary Bissett called it exactly right. This venom is coming directly from the Democrat Party and their media lies. They've normalized political violence, and now we're seeing the deadly consequences. And speaking of deadly consequences and being prepared for what's coming, you see, something's brewing and you can feel it. The problem, well, you never know the full story until after the crash, after the collapse, after it's too late. And here's the brutal truth. You can't protect yourself afterwards. You have to be ready now. All this uncertainty, the chaos, the warning signs might just be telling us that something massive is coming. While politicians play games with our economy and radicals threaten our stability, smart Americans are taking action, and that's why I trust Noble Gold Investments to help secure my financial future with precious metals. When everything else fails, gold endures. So do not wait until it's too late. Call Noble Gold today and protect what matters most. You'll find that number on the screen as well as the link to Next News Gold. But here's the part that should terrify every American. You see, this wasn't some spontaneous act of violence. Austin Tucker Martin, a 20-something artist from North Carolina, didn't just wake up one morning and decide to attack Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and a gasoline can. Someone or something pushed him to this point. His own mother reported him missing, which means this was planned. The Democrats' constant calls for resistance and their media allies painting Trump as Hitler does have consequences. Senator Marsha Blackburn reacting, "We're grateful for the swift and decisive action by law enforcement at Mar-a-Lago to stop this threat. Rhetoric matters, and Democrats have a duty to do their part to prevent future attacks on President Trump." But no, I don't think they really care. They don't want to prevent future attacks. President Trump is dismantling their entire system, their entire game. He is the obstacle to their globalist takeover of this nation. That's why these things continue. We're going to get President Trump's reaction in just a moment, but let's hear Marsha Blackburn first.
This is the third time we have seen an attempt on President Trump's life, and we are pleased he was not there and are grateful for the swift reaction, and know that FBI, Secret Service, Palm Beach County are conducting this investigation, and I am certain in the next few hours we are going to know more about how this individual was able to breach that perimeter. And also, you know, Mike, we're going to know more about this individual and their political leanings and their reasoning. And I'm certain that the family is going to be able to provide some insight into this. I think it is also a reminder that rhetoric matters. And this continuing with the Trump derangement syndrome and villainizing the President of the United States without respect to the individual or to the office, this is something that people should think twice before they speak in that manner.
What questions would you have if senators get a briefing on this incident from federal authorities?
Yes, I think that as we're learning that the family reported the individual missing, and we're going to want to know more about what that report entailed to law enforcement and the mental illness, and if it is a severely mentally disturbed individual. We also are going to want to know about law enforcement and the breaching of that perimeter and the difference in the security when the president is present at his residence and when he is not.
Thankfully, the president was not on site when it happened. But her opening statement about the rhetoric sets up the analysis and how this political violence is being analyzed by law enforcement. GB News, what we are seeing is political ideology played out in political violence. That's a quote. Law enforcement litigation expert Dr. Sonny Slaughter discusses the U.S. Secret Service fatally shooting a man for unlawfully entering President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home.
Well, what we are seeing is political ideology play out in political violence. And apparently this young Well, what we are seeing is political ideology play out in political violence. And apparently this young man went missing off the radar of his parents from North Carolina. He's 21 years old. And for some reason, and we don't know yet because this is still a developing story, he decided that it was the smart thing to do to take a gun and gas can onto the property of Mar-a-Lago, and thank goodness the president was not there.
Dr. Sonny, there appears to be lots more targeted attacks, or at least publicized targeted attacks, with President Trump than perhaps there has been with previous administrations. What do you think we can read into this?
You know, I was thinking the exact same thing when we were going back and forth about my appearance today. A lot more targeted, but also very, very visible. Now, I've been traveling around with U.S. senators and members of Congress for years. And even when you think about the other attacks on previous presidents, they have been vast. But lately, what we are finding out in the last year or two is that more information is coming out about these attacks, and particularly those on President Trump. What we know is that attacks, targeted attacks, do happen, but what we are seeing is that they're communicated at a high rate now more than ever. And I don't know whether more people are paying attention or whether the White House has decided that this is important for people to know. And I think two things can be true at the same time, and both of those things are true. More is happening.
More is happening. The political ideology as violence bridges perfectly to the hard details we're getting. Update from MJ Truth Ultra, Mar-a-Lago breach. Suspect was a white male in his 20s, also carrying a gas can in addition to a shotgun. Authorities are asking local residents to check their security cameras to see if they see anything suspicious. Here is some early reporting.
I have with me from the FBI, Special Agent in Charge Brett Stiles, Special Agent in Charge Rafael Barrios from the Secret Service. Also, I have Resident Agent in Charge David Clancy. At 1:30 this morning, the security detail detected that an individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and two Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those two pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the two Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene. I'll give you a picture of the shotgun and the gas can to have with you. So that's what we know now. The investigation continues. The FBI is the lead investigation.
Now here is a picture of the shotgun laying on the ground and the gas can. You can see it clearly there in the imagery. from the investigation. Secret Service shot him.
We are back with the Fox News alert. We can now report, per U.S. Secret Service, that an armed man in his 20s was shot and killed by U.S. Secret Service agents in the local sheriff's department at Mar-a-Lago after unlawfully entering the secure perimeter.
Any minute now, we're expecting a press briefing out of Mar-a-Lago from the FBI, Secret Service, and local officials. So what we understand at the moment is that overnight, around 1:30 in the morning.
So you saw some of that press briefing, but the details about the male with the shotgun, the gas can, are the setup for the next. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent blames the latest failed assassination attempt on Trump inside Mar-a-Lago on the Democrats because of their increasing calls for violence against Republicans. Listen.
This morning. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us. We had planned to have you on this program to discuss tariffs, but let me first begin with your reaction. Do you know if President Trump was in Washington at 1:30 a.m. last night?
Good morning, Maria, and good to be with you. I just spoke with President Trump. He spent the night in D.C. He was here for the National Governors Conference, gave a great speech to the governors last night. And, you know, Maria, I just want to say, why don't we look back here and think two would-be assassins dead, one in jail for life, and you know, this venom coming from the other side. Look at this terrible, profane Senate commercial in Illinois. I would call for them to take that down. Take that down, because it is that kind of venom that, you know, we don't know whether this person was a mastermind, unhinged, or what, but they are normalizing this violence. It's got to stop. I want to congratulate Sean Curran and the Secret Service for protecting the president and his family.
And how is it possible that this individual could have gotten as close as he did to Mar-a-Lago last night?
For anyone who's driven along there, the perimeter is very very protected. So we'll see. I don't know whether did he come along the beach? Did he? I don't know. But I can tell you the Secret Service is running. They are so much better now than it was in Butler. New leadership and President Trump and his family. They're safe, but they shouldn't have to endure attempt after attempt.
And Secretary, will there be any further changes in terms of the president's security, the security at Mar-a-Lago post this incident?
Yeah, Maria, I'm not going to discuss that on TV, but okay. I think the perimeter around the president is as strong as it's ever been. But again, this existential threat, this venom from the left, really has to stop. They've normalized this violence.
They've normalized the violence. Nobody goes to work hoping to draw their weapon. The goal is public safety. Former Secret Service agent Bobby McDonald tells Nick Ferrelli the death of the man on Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate would have been a last resort.
We need to say for the men and women involved, the law enforcement officers, there have been some controversial incidents over recent months, but it is reported that they gave this man every opportunity to give up, and instead he effectively went on the offense.
Look, our discipline has had some trouble over the last couple of years, absolutely, especially in the United States. But the men and women of law enforcement go out every day to protect their community. Nobody, none of us ever goes to work hoping to having to draw our weapon and ultimately discharge it and allow for a life to be lost. That is not the goal every day. The goal is public safety and making sure that within the Secret Service, our protectees and their properties are safe and sound every day.
That's not what they wanted to do when they went in to work that day, but that's how it ended up. Nick Sortor also breaking the news. Secret Service shot and killed an armed intruder while penetrating the secure perimeter at Mar-a-Lago, carrying a shotgun and a gas can. First images that we saw, actually from Laura Loomer. She caught the images, posted them first on X, and then found that the young man was missing. His parents had called him in missing. And there he is. That's a picture of him. The suspect's identity as a North Carolina artist gives us the perfect setup for Trump's own reaction, from whom the shooter was to how the target himself is responding.
I don't know how long I'll be around. Got a lot of people gunning for me, don't I? Huh? But I will not forget them. I'm never going to forget them. I don't know how long I'll be around. Got a lot of people gunning for me, don't I? Huh? But I will not forget them. I'm never going to forget them.
You can hear it in his voice, man. He knows it. A lot of people gunning for him. That's why we need to pray for President Trump. We need to pray for this nation every single day. Pray for protection. God has his hand on this nation. God has his hand on this president, and I believe that. What happened in Butler was a clear miracle when his head was turned in just the right moment, dodging that assassin's bullet. It could only be the hand of God there. And again, the hand of God placing President Trump in Washington, D.C. when somebody else would go and breach the perimeter at Mar-a-Lago. President Trump knows that his enemies are all around him. But the angels of the Lord are around him as well. Let's keep praying for that. You see, the Secret Service saved America that night because if that lunatic had succeeded, he'd gotten past the perimeter with his weapon and his gas can, we'd be looking at a completely different country today. And thank God for the brave men and women who put their lives on the line to protect our president from these deranged leftist assassins. See, this is exactly why Trump won in a landslide. The American people are sick and tired of the left's violence and their hatred. Every failed assassination attempt, every act of leftist terror, every unhinged attack just proves that Trump is the man they fear most. He's the only one standing between us and their radical agenda. The Secret Service did their job perfectly, but we can't rely on them to stop every attack. We need to stand up. We need to speak out and make it clear that political violence has no place in America. So my question for you, do you think that Democrats will finally condemn this violence? Or will they keep pushing their supporters towards more deadly attacks? Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real America First journalism.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.